Well, good morning. I hope you're awake now with this little exercise. We will talk about mobility and transportation regarding when it comes to tourism later on. That's why we did this little exercise. There is a reason, of course. And yesterday we already talked about a few funding programs of the EU, and that's how we will start today as well. We will focus on one in particular, the Single Market Program that should help the single market reach its full potential and ensure Europe's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic that had a huge impact, of course, on tourism as well. And I'm very happy to welcome Lucia Masarova on stage. She's Project Advisory, European Innovation Council and SME's Executive Agency at the European Commission. And she will now talk about funding opportunities for tourism stakeholders and SMEs from the Single Market Program. A warm welcome to you. Good morning.
Okay, hello, good morning. I'm very happy to see you so many in the room after yesterday evening program. Yesterday we have seen 70 SMEs, tourism companies in the spotlight because they have been recently awarded with sustainable certificates. And it's just natural to ask what's coming next for them and if there is anything that the EU is still doing in the area of sustainable tourism, and whether you could still apply for other opportunities to go even further on your sustainability path. So let's have a look. Yesterday also, my colleague from European Commission, Andreas Teik, told you that there are 15 EU programs that are available for supporting tourism, for funding tourism. But of course, it would take me the whole morning to present you all 15 to you. So I will focus only on one of them, which is the Single Market Program. But to give you a tip where to find information about all the EU programs available for tourism, how to support tourism, I will mention two tools. One, and I hope you have already heard about them, it's the Enterprise Europe Network. Those are business intermediaries, very often chambers of commerce, which are available in each EU member state. They are funded by Single Market Program. And they are the best contact place to go if you need any advice about the funding available for EU. They are also helping SMEs to do business in other EU member states and even beyond to help them internationalize, to go international, right? So I repeat, Enterprise Europe Network. You definitely have them also in Austria. And another tool which is available and which also my colleague yesterday mentioned is the Guide on EU Funding for Tourism, which is being updated very regularly and which is available on the Commission's website. So if you are looking for the funds, you may check those tools. One is the guide, written guide document. Another one, those are really people where you can go and contact them, Enterprise Europe Network. Right, and now I'm getting to the core, to the Single Market Program. So as Mari said, it's a Single Market is a funding program which is supporting single market, which is one of the EU pillars of the European Union. Right, in ideal world, companies in all EU member states would have the same conditions to do their business, and it would be very easy to go and do business in another EU member state. Of course, this is ideal world. We all know that it's not so easy when you decide to do business in another member state, and of course, conditions of doing business in one member state are not the same as another one. So to get a little bit closer to this ideal world of single market at the European Union level, we have Single Market Program, which this year actually celebrates its 30 years. So it's been 30 years that we have single market in the European Union. And maybe because we were approaching this 30 years celebration anniversary, that the European Commission decided to dedicate its own program to the single market. So as of 2021, we have Single Market Program. It doesn't mean that before we have not supported single market. It's just the support for single market was scattered through different programs. If I'm not wrong, we had 6 European programs supporting different parts of the single market. And yeah, well, now they are integrated in this full package. And one of these parts of single market really focuses on SMEs. So we have SME pillar, so small and medium-sized enterprises pillar under single market program, which tries to support SMEs in 3 different objectives. The first is to facilitate market access and reduce administrative burden. And there, I would mention the concrete initiatives, how we are trying to reach those objectives. And one of them was, as I already mentioned, Enterprise Europe Network. Another one is the network of so-called IPR help desks, so intellectual property rights help desks. So in case companies decide to do their business out of the EU to protect their intellectual property rights, we have help desks to help them. And we have those help desks located a little bit in the big countries, such as in China, or also in Latin America and India. Right. The second objective is to support the uptake of innovation and addressing global and societal challenges. And here is where we find the support to tourism, about which I will talk much more in a moment. And the third objective is to foster a favorable business environment and entrepreneurial culture. And there I would mention one flagship initiative. I hope you know it. If not, I would like to present it to you. It's called Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs. Has anybody heard about it? Yeah. So Erasmus, of course, doesn't need to be presented as a program for students, but Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs is not only for young entrepreneurs, but for anybody who has just created their own company and they want to know more. They want to go to another member state to meet another entrepreneur who has more experience and to even just to talk to the person, to spend a little time with the person and to kind of start a cooperation. Or simply it might be, the purpose might be just to know how another person in another member state is doing the same business as the young entrepreneur wants to do in the future, right? So Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs, if you're interested, it's also a program which is open, I think, all the time. You just need to find your national contact point to see what are the opportunities and to support you on that. And let me now tell you a little bit about the budget of the single market program. So we have 4.2 billion euro for 7 years dedicated to the single market program. And for the SME pillar, which I have just presented to you, we have about 1/4 of it. So 1 billion euro rounded amount dedicated to the competitiveness of SMEs. And let's put this number a little bit in a context. So here overall you see the entire budget of the European Union, right? So it's more than 2 trillion euro. Part of it is, of course, dedicated to this multi-annual financial frameworks, and part of it is dedicated to Next Generation EU, which was created just after with the new Commission. And where would you see the single market program? Well, it's just a small, tiny little bubble here. So you see that there is much more than the EU funding and many other EU funds available in the EU, which might still be relevant for tourism SMEs, but which are not totally dedicated to tourism SMEs, right? What I want to say, if you have a project and you think that it might be relevant for the EU, just try to look around what funds are available. And as an example, it might be about getting the green energy into your companies, or maybe it might be for renovation. There might be funds from the EU for all the other companies, not only for tourism companies, which you can still use and which you might still find relevant. And the single market program is actually being implemented by the executive agency established by the European Commission, for which I'm working. So the name of the agency is European Innovation Council and SMEs Executive Agency. For those of you who are familiar with EU funding, until April 2021, the name of the agency was EASMA. It was really the Agency for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. But as of 2021, with the new multi-annual financial framework, we got also European Innovation Council program as part of the Horizon into the focus of the agency. To be very honest with you, European Innovation Council might not be the most relevant program for tourism SMEs, because it's really focusing on technological innovation. So very marginally, it might be relevant to some types of tourism SMEs, but maybe not for hotels and accommodations, the standard, the traditional SMEs in tourism. But it's a very ambitious program of the European Commission to support venture capital for innovative companies. And the agency also manages other EU programs, such as European Regional Development Fund, and under it, it's the initiative called Interregional Innovation Initiatives, just to mention a few of them. And now I will again get into the core of the presentation, so really to inform you about what projects are currently ongoing under the Single Market Program or under its predecessor, which was called COSME, which was the program for competitiveness of companies, of enterprises, and small and medium-sized enterprises, right? And to explain you why I will be going back to 2019, it's because the whole life cycle of how EU funds are working is actually a very long life cycle. So it all starts with the definition of the EU program, which is the Single Market Program, and then the Commission adopts every year a work program in which it indicates the list of call for proposals which will be funded in that year. And only when this work program is adopted, we can publish a call for proposals with the detailed objectives, eligible activities, and so on. And following that, organizations may start submitting proposals, so-called projects, right? Then they are evaluated, and then the best get the funding, get grant, and sign grant agreement with the European Commission. And only then the projects start to be implemented. And when we are talking projects, it's an example, it's the ETGG 2030 project, thanks to which the SMEs got certified. And the usual duration of such programs is between 2.5 and 3 years for tourism projects about which I will talk. So you see, from the moment the work program is adopted until you see the results of a project, of an action, it may be very well that there is a period of 5 years. Right, and that's why I start with a call for proposals that we launched in 2019, under which the ETGG project, European Tourism Going Green 2030 project, was funded. The title of the call was Boosting Sustainable Tourism Development and Capacity of Tourism SMEs through Transnational Cooperation and Knowledge Transfer. Thanks to this call, we have funded 6 projects. The budget was about 6 million euro, so about 1 million for each project. Unfortunately, right now, as the projects are finishing, there are no funding available from this project anymore. But why I'm talking about it? It's because all these projects are coming to its end, so we can now see really the results of those projects. We have developed, those projects developed very interesting sources of information which might be very relevant for you. Such as best practices, some guides, some training, not even for you, but also for your staff. So I invite you to really go and see the project websites of these projects and to see whether you can find something useful for your company. I will also tell you a little bit about each project, so you can maybe choose not to look for each of them. So Centaur project was focusing on circular economy in tourism. They focused on 2 specific areas, which was how to reduce food waste in tourism companies. And another area on which they focused was how to reduce plastic packaging in tourism companies. So that was Centaur. ETGG 2030, I don't think I need to present it anymore. You have heard a lot about it yesterday and you participated to it, so you should know it the best. Another project was called EU Ecotandem. EU Ecotandem brought a quite innovative approach of creating tandems, so groups of 2 companies working together. One was traditional tourism SME, hotel, campsite, and another one was innovative company, startup. And those 2 types of companies were matched. They were working together to create an action plan to make the traditional tourism SME more sustainable, more innovative. And at the end, the best tandems were awarded financial support to implement those action plans. Another project was called Sustour. and that one is relevant for travel agencies and tour operators. It was training the tour operators and travel agencies to get Travel Life certification. Another one was focused on urban tourism. That's a Tourban project. So for the companies located in cities. And the last one was Tourisma, which developed quite interesting training materials for companies, which I really liked because they were very nice visually. And altogether, we're very proud that we have managed to support almost 1,000 SMEs throughout the EU member states, thanks to these 6 projects. Those SMEs come from almost all EU member states, and we were also proud to support SMEs out of the EU because they were associated to the COSME program, and so we have had companies from also Moldova and North Macedonia supported by Centaur project. And here comes a call for proposal that we have done in 2020. It was still COSME program, so predecessor of the single market program. And in that one, we have been focusing on digitalization. So we wanted the tourism SMEs to get more innovative thanks to digital technologies. And under that one, we have awarded 9 projects with the budget very similar to TourCop, but because we had 9 projects, the budget was 9 million euro. And I will not go into the details of all of them, but you can see that they are ending in 2024, so they'll still have time to bring some interesting results. And there are still some calls for SMEs which are open right now or will be open still this year. One of them, which is open until mid-May, so maybe the last chance to apply, is under the project Tour in Act. And it is open in companies, because of course, as you know, these cascade calls for SMEs, for tourism companies, they always define which countries are eligible for or companies from which countries are eligible for funding. And the Tour in Act project actually focused on SMEs from Italy, Spain, Greece, Romania, or Cyprus. So I hope that at least companies from Romania and Italy are happy to see that there is something going on still, and the support is available for them. And what to expect under Tour in Act project if you apply for the call? Basically, they have created a catalog of innovative digital solutions relevant for tourism SMEs. And SMEs who are interested may apply to their call on their website, and as a result they will receive financial support, so a small amount of money, and they can buy any of the digital innovative solutions from their catalog. And as I mentioned, there will be 3 more calls under Tour in call for proposals still open this year, so projects maybe to note down are Resetting, EU Digitour, and Euro Emotour. Okay, and we get to 2021, which was the first year when the single market program started to be implemented, and we have launched a quite big call for which the title was COVID-19 Recovery Through Sustainable Tourism Growth and SME Support. So you see that there, for the first time, we have seen the COVID-19 package being implemented, so the support really for SMEs to become more resilient after the shock of COVID-19 crisis. And there we had a budget of 12.5 million euro. We have funded 10 projects, and you see that they have just started in January 2023. So we have 10 projects, out of which all of them will publish a small call for SMEs this year. So here is your attention. One call for SMEs is already open. It's for the project Trace. It's from the Italian coordinator, and SMEs from the following countries are eligible. Again, Italy, Romania, and then Belgium, Spain, and Cyprus. They also say in their call that also SMEs from other countries are eligible, but they will not receive funding. So there might be some support activities, some training available, which might be interesting for you, but for this one, you will not receive the funding if you are not from Italy, Belgium, Spain, Romania, or Cyprus. And the project focuses on circular tourism. And to this call, I would like also to point out that we the European Commission starts to implement an approach of monitoring sustainable tourism. So these 10 projects should come up with a monitoring mechanism of sustainable tourism to come up to create some indicators which SMEs could measure and then follow up so that they can say that they are really becoming more sustainable because they would have really figures behind it. And we see that this approach of monitoring sustainability is really becoming more and more important in the European Commission's initiatives. And in 2022, still under Single Market Program, under SME Pillar, we have published another call which is very similar to the one from 2021, but the budget really rocketed to 20.5 million. And this call is currently, in a way, ongoing. The title of the call was Sustainable Growth and Building Resilience in Tourism, Empowering SMEs to Carry Out the Twin Transition. By twin transition, we mean the green and digital transition. So for this call for proposal is still in the stage of preparation. We have evaluated the proposals. We have selected those which are the best, and we are slowly working to sign 6 grant agreements before the end of this year. It means that the projects will also probably start before the end of the year, but I cannot give you the names because it's still confidential information. But what I can tell you is that in each of these 6 projects, we will again have calls for SMEs, but and the support scheme changed a little bit. We are trying to test an approach that not only single SMEs will apply for funding, but also partnerships can apply for funding for the innovative projects, which would mean that SME can come up with their suppliers, for example, to present a project, how to become more innovative and to involve their suppliers in the project. And each of these 6 projects will support at least 50 innovative projects submitted by 1 or up to 4 SMEs. And if we add up all this, and if I'm not wrong, we can have up to more than 1,000 actually SMEs supported by this call again. And if we say innovative projects, what you can imagine under it. So we have defined it as the projects that enable development, implementation and scaling up of innovative solutions for sustainable, digital and inclusive tourism, and that clearly contribute to innovating the offer in the tourism ecosystem. So this is what we are understanding under innovative projects. And so this was the call from 2022, but we are in 2023. So which call for proposals we are preparing for this year? And it is this one. So it's transitioning to a more sustainable and resilient ecosystem. And again, it's about empowering tourism SMEs. This is the call for proposals, which are still in the stage of work program. I have put you a link of a Commission implementing decision where you can find the very basic description. But the call for proposal has not been launched yet. It was planned to be launched in Q2 2023, which would mean by June 2023. But I think it's safe to say right now that it will not be launched before summer, but right after the summer, because simply it's not a good idea to launch a call for proposals for tourism just during the summer season, high summer season period. So this one will be expected just after summer. The budget is getting a little bit lower than what was the maximum that we have seen. So we are going back to a certain average of tourism calls to which we were used to. So the budget will be 7.5 million euro for tourism projects. And the purpose of this call will be to help the transition of the European tourism ecosystem by providing direct or indirect support to SMEs who wish to develop innovative concepts and projects contributing to the transition of the EU tourism. So we still remain in a very similar area of green and digital transition of SMEs and how to really help the entire tourism ecosystem to become more green. Here I would like to say that for all call for proposals on tourism, we are organizing info days. So once the call for proposals will be out, a couple of weeks after the publication date, we will organize info days, so just pay attention for that date. Usually there are usually. All the time they are online, so you can connect to it, you can ask questions, and we will be happy to provide you with answers and about clarifications about text of the call. So this one is really is relevant for organizations active in tourism, for tourism stakeholders, as we used to call them, for even universities, for any type of organization who would be interested to help the European Commission to carry out, to carry out the green and digital transition. Right. And now I'm getting to cascade funding calls. I have already mentioned them. So those are the small calls for SMEs. You can imagine that we call them cascade calls because actually it's the European Commission giving money to consortia of beneficiaries who then distribute money to tourism SMEs. And where you can find them? Well, projects are obliged to publish those calls on Funding and Tenders portal. It's quite simple. You just put the keyword of tourism, you take grants, and as a type of grant calls, you put cascade funding calls. And it gives you the result, which is this one. And you see already which calls are open, right? So for the moment, I can tell you that there are 2 calls open, the ones which I mentioned in my presentation. And there will be more than 10 that we expect to be published before the end of this year. I say that we expect, because of course in a project anything can happen. So they are all planned for before the end of this year, but there might be some situations where it would be postponed even to next year. But well, we hope to have them out. So you see that we are being very generous for the tourism companies this year, thanks to especially 2021 call for proposals for tourism. And by this, even if you don't think that you would like to continue with EU funding in the future, I would like to ask you to spread the word around you, because you might have other companies in your region, in your area, other people that you know from your networks who might be interested in those calls and who would really benefit from the support from the European Union to get their businesses more sustainable. And I hope you also liked the experience with EU funding and that you will spread the positive message about it in your networks. And one more thing about it that I would like to mention, even if you have already benefited from EU funding for your projects to get the sustainability certificates, you can still apply for funding under the EU, but pay attention to go for another project. So you describe a different project. Right? It cannot be the same certification which you already have, which is completely reasonable. It must be something a little bit different, another type of certification, follow up, scaling up your project further. So that would be completely all right to apply. So, and this is the end of my presentation. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And also, don't forget to follow us on social media. Our agency's abbreviation is ACEMEA. And you can find all the information about the calls on our social media as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lucia.